Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Kaba Ilco 530-53-51. This is their jimmy-proof vertical style deadbolt. A very classic sort of design. Kaba Ilco manufactures this lock in both the single cylinder version, meaning it'll have a cylinder on the outside and a thumb turn on the inside. They'll have it with a cylinder on the inside and the outside. And they'll also sell it to less cylinder. Maybe you're going to reuse your old one. A typical sort of bronze sprayed finish. Okay, it's going to feature the strike. This one will come with specifically the angle strike, and that is going to give you an appropriate installation for a in-swing door where you're mounting obviously the lock on the inside. This 53-51 includes the cylinder for the exterior. It's a KW1 keyway. Pardon me. It's what they call a 1054 MT keyway with a quickset look-alike bow. The rest of the contents include a cylinder ring for the underside of the rim cylinder, 2 screws for holding the cylinder on through the door, your base plate, which is also for use in attaching your door, your cylinder to the door, and then your screw package. So there is a link below this video to both the installation instructions and the template, and we're going to review that information now. But before we do so, these sorts of deadbolts are used in residential applications where clients may have grown up with this sort of deadbolt, may know and can attest to how well they work and how reliable they are. There are people that prefer the Kaba Ilco brand and therefore like to order this lock. New installations, you'll have these installed in new installations as well. I've installed these for people in exterior commercial applications where they've got a delivery door, a steel door. They want that locked, and this vertical sort of deadbolt gives them a sense of security, a peace of mind, because it's a reliable sort of lock, etc. Now, let's move on to the installation instructions. First of all, there's going to be a template. Let's go over the template first because that'll be the easier part. This template is going under the assumption that you will only install this on an in-swing door when the lock is installed on the pull side or the inside. The reason that that's the case is because you've got this angle strike. While you could certainly install the lock body on the push side of an outswinging door, you've got a problem with this strike. Maybe you want to take and cut that return leg off and just install it to the stop of the frame. You could certainly do that. But the template is only going to give you an installation for an in-swing. If you're doing an outswing, if you were to modify that strike, simply, eyeball these two things on the face of the door and the frame, and just lay it all out. Make sure that you're getting everything installed properly and that you've got your lock working correctly, and mark your holes. And I think in that case, you'd be in real good shape to go about doing that. But let's go on with just the way that this was intended to be installed. The templates are for left-hand door or for right-hand door. Okay, you just have to apply that with the edge of the template being against the edge of the door. And once you have this attached to the edge of the door, you can then mark your 5 holes. And the 5 holes are the 4 little ones that you see here, and then this one here. So you can just take, once you get the template applied to the door, take a nail set, a center punch, a hammer and a trim screw, and just mark your holes. And then you'll know where your lock is to be located. Marking your holes is nice because it locates the lock, but it also gives you the ability for your drill bit to start pre-drilling the holes and do so at a centered point. There's nothing else on the template I feel necessary to point out. If you have any questions about the installation of this, feel free to reach out to us. Except that it says at the bottom, lock installation without the exterior cylinder, you don't drill this hole. You wouldn't mark this hole at all. Now, moving on to the installation, we're going to be talking about, the installation for this is pretty simple and straightforward. And quite frankly, all the work is done after you've located it on the door There's not much else that you have to do or think, really, making it an easy sort of installation. Step 1, apply the appropriate template to the inside of the door and punch to mark the 4 screw holes and the cylinder hole. Next, drill the 1.25" diameter hole partially through the door. Stop when the point of the hole saw breaks through. Drill through from the outside to avoid splintering. Then drill the 4 1/8" diameter pilot holes, 3/4 inch deep. Let's talk about that. So what they're saying is, your hole for the cylinder, you're going to drill that first. 1.25" diameter hole saw is pretty common. You might have a multi-spur bit. I like a hole saw because the very nature of it allows me to get a straighter hole through the door, and with enough practice you can know when you're drilling a straight hole or not. You might want to have somebody help you to keep your drill straight as you're drilling through, and you just want to push slightly. The reason that that's critical is if the hole is misdrilled, you'll have trouble with the lock operating. The tailpiece of the rim cylinder must be straight, laser beam straight. It cannot be turning in an eccentric sort of circle by means of a hole that's not drilled correctly. It will not allow the lock to work reliably and to work well at all. Straight hole is really important. Go until your pilot hole breaches the exterior face. Stop, pull it out, clean out the inside of the hole saw because you might have some wood compacted in there. Go to the other side and then just finish off your hole. That should give you a really nice straight hole, and you'll know as soon as you go through that. Then they want you to pre-drill your 4 1/8 inch holes. Pre-drill the 4 holes, 1/8 inch drill bit, 3/4 deep, and that is going to be for your long screws at the screw package. Okay, you want to pre-drill that. You don't want to try to run those through. You might split the face of the door or damage the screw or strip it out. Step 2. Place the cylinder in cylinder ring and insert into the 1.25" diameter hole from outside of door. Position keyhole to bottom. Okay, so what they're saying is your cylinder ring goes over your cylinder. Bring that through the exterior. Step 3 is going to be your base plate installation. Let's talk about that. Place back plate over connecting bar and attach to cylinder using the 2 break-off screws provided, which are for 2.25" inch thick doors. For thinner doors, screws should be cut to proper length. Step 2, we were in the middle before I paused the video. You want to have the screws that are provided here are for 2.25" inch thick doors. Okay. For thinner doors, screws should be cut to the proper length. Depending on the door thickness of the door, screws are provided with break-off points. Now, you're going to want to measure and view the proper length of what you're dealing with. There are 2 break-off points that you can see per screw. I generally find that I need to cut off for 1 3/4 doors, just the first one. If it's 1 3/8 door, I'm going to get down into here. When they say break off, you're going to want to be very careful when you're snapping them. I like to I would put pliers on the part that I'm cutting off, and I would take a hacksaw and I would carefully cut that. Trying to snap it, you'll bend the screw in my experience. The same concept applies with the tailpiece from the rim cylinder. You can see that you've got break points. You're going to want to test that length in your operation before you make a final determination of where to cut it. You'll know that the tailpiece is the improper length when you can't get it all the way installed on the door and have it work correctly, because it will literally bury into the back of the lock and not operate correctly. You'll know that it's correct when it's both communicating to the inside of the lock and the lock is flush to the face of the door, and obviously you can operate it. But important, line up back plate 1/8 inch from edge of door. See the sketch above. So what they're saying is you've got your 4 holes drilled, pre-drilled, and they're here. Your your two screws, you can see where they're going to communicate to the back of that cylinder hole. Okay. Line the back plate up 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the door. So this will be kicked back 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the door. Break off connecting bar so that it extends 1/2 of an inch max beyond the faceplate. So there's the magic dimension. On the inside of the door, it should be sticking out no more than 1/2 of an inch, is what they're saying. You could probably get away with something a little bit longer than that, but not too much. Connecting bar is provided with break-off points. You're going to want to be real careful. You don't want to just try to break that off with pliers. You know, I would carefully cut it. I would even go to the extent of removing the tailpiece from the cylinder, putting it in a vise so that I don't get any movement or bending out of it. I don't want to bend that tailpiece because it will not, you know, it'll try to move eccentrically. Follow illustration below to shorten connecting bar. Finishing off the conversation. 2 pliers is what they're showing. I've certainly done it that way. I don't prefer to do it that way. Step 4. Set bolt in unlocked position and place lock on connecting bar. Attach lock to inside of door using the 4 long screws, wood screws provided. Check to see that the lock is working properly from both inside and outside. So at this point, you've got your plate, you've got your cylinder attached to the door, you've got your tailpiece cut to the proper length. That's all attached. Then what they're saying is unlock the lock, get it placed over, make sure everything works. Okay? So attach it, make sure everything works, and then at that point, you'll know that you're in good shape. Make sure that everything works means this, though. You've got your keys in. When they said the keyway goes down, that just means you want the teeth of the key pointed up. You're going to want to make sure that you can rotate that cylinder, remove the key in both the locked and unlocked position. You're going to want to make sure that you can lock and unlock this and test your key operation from the outside in both of those circumstances. Keep one of the keys in your pocket so that you don't unintentionally get locked out. Apply the strike to door jamb in line with lock. See the sketch below to the right. Mortise or recess the strike to the door jamb if necessary. Then attach into jamb with the 7 short wood screws provided. At this point, what they're saying is eyeball it, is what they're saying. You want to make sure this is all lined up properly. Pardon me. It's going to look more like, sorry. It's going to look more like that. So that proper orientation is going to look like this. Okay. This is an instance where the door is a right hand. I'm on the outside, you're on the inside. It's going to look like this. Okay. And at this point, when you've got it vertically lined up, because it's really, you know, you're going to want to center it. You're then going to want to mark off with a pencil where you have to be, and then mortise this. They say, should it be necessary? I say it will be necessary. Is the bottom line. Mortising the strike will always be necessary. That's too thick to fit between the door and the frame. So you'll get it mortised flush. You're then going to have a series of shorter screws, which are provided there. Now, I personally, 7, 3, and 4, I personally would go and get longer screws for these two, because at this point, because this is towards the inside of the frame, you should be able to sink those long screws through your frame and into the studs behind the jamb. That would be my opinion. It would be nice if they were provided. They are not. That's the bottom line. At this point, we've concluded all of the installation instructions. We've gotten to the bottom of it. Very nice quality lock. Now, Kaba Ilco is a full-line manufacturer of all things cylinder-related. A whole series of jimmy-proof locks like this. Very good quality material, especially their solid brass rim cylinders and mortise cylinders and key and knob replacement cylinders. If you have any questions on the Kaba Ilco 530-53-51 jimmy-proof single-cylinder deadbolt with an exterior cylinder or any other Kaba Ilco product, please feel free to reach out to us.